Today, to tell us how to engage with your audience, will you please welcome Rikki Arundel?
So this is a new speech. I sent an email to Pearl. I said, I'd love to come and speak at London. So she sent me a message. I said, yeah, can you make April the 14th? I said, great. But not that one, not that speech. So I said, well, here's a list of another 6. She said, no, none of those. So we created a brand new one. So join me on a journey in a completely new speech. I'm going to talk about audience engagement. It's something I do rather than something I talk about. So that's really the whole thing about that. So I've got a few notes. I'm going to keep myself going on this so I know where I am. Now, let me start with a little bit of a story. I am clinically obese. That's what the NHS says. My BMI is over 30. Actually hovers at around about the 34 mark on a regular basis. And I have really, really struggled with this weight for 30 years. It has been the worst. Anybody here had a problem that struggled with their weight on it? I am a serial dieter. I have done the Weight Watchers diet. I have done the lemon juice diet. Anybody done the lemon juice diet? Done the grapefruit diet. Okay, yep, you've done the grapefruit diet. I've done. I did the Atkins diet. Tricky if you're a vegetarian, but I still still crack the Atkins. There's so many. The Cambridge diet, the Mediterranean diet.
You need to try the cereal diet.
Yeah, I know. I haven't. Yeah, but I did the Paul McKenna diet. I did a hypnotism to try and get rid of the weight. And I have to tell you this: they all work for a while. My weight would come down a stone or 2, and then I'd reach that plateau. Have you ever reached that on a diet? You reach that plateau, and then suddenly it's biscuits and ice cream, and before you know where you are, I'm back to over 30 BMI again. And it's a real problem. Then, well, about 10 years ago, I got this, I have to have blood tests. Because I'm transgender, I have to have my blood checked all the time because I'm taking hormones. And I got a phone call saying, could you come in? We'd like to talk to you about your blood test. I thought, oh, that sounds good. So I sat down in front of the nurse, and this is probably one of the worst days of my life. This is exactly what she said to me. You have diabetes. It is going to kill you. What we're going to try and do is slow it down. Oh my God, I nearly passed out in the surgery. And I thought, this is crazy. I can't do this. I've got to deal with this. So I invested in a diet called Sure Slim. Doesn't exist anymore. It's gone. I think it's still in Australia. But anyway, £500 I invested in this. They took blood tests and they checked me out. They did an interview. It was all about metabolic typing. It's about low GI, low. Anyway, you have to measure every single thing you eat to the minute, nearest 5 grams, every single meal. And it worked. I lost 4 stone. Diabetes in remission. I thought, fabulous. And then the ice cream. And steadily my weight went back up again, and by the end of the year I was back at that same level. Yeah, I have battled with this so much. This is my diet diary, and I keep in here a record of my weight. On the 1st of January every year, this is from 2011, 17 zone 5, 2012, 1712, 1711, 17. This is the 1st of January each year. 17. Every year, when I write down my weight, it's still back at the same place. Is that familiar? Anybody familiar with that? I'd like to just ask now. Just could you're exempt from this request. Everybody here, would you like just to stand up? Just everyone. Statistically speaking, just so that you understand, in this number of people, no, you're okay, no, just those people there. Statistically speaking, with a group of people this size, that is how many of us have diabetes, but 1 in 3 don't know because they haven't been tested. And it's growing every year. Hope it hasn't upset you, but thank you for your participation. This is deadly. This is so serious. So, I didn't know what to do. And this year, I started the diet early. I started in November. I got to Christmas. I lost a stone. After Christmas, just haven't been able to get back into it. And then, about a month ago, I came across a book. And then 2 weeks ago, I bought Look, if I could show you a way to completely lose weight with incredible ease, to prevent yourself from getting diabetes, and if you have diabetes, actually put it into remission immediately, how many of you would actually be interested in hearing how to do that? Okay, so I've got a few people who would actually be interested. Nobody's exempt from diabetes, by the way. Anyway, what happened is I found this book. It's just been published at the beginning of this year, called The Diabetes Code by a doctor from Toronto called Jason Fung. And he basically has said, all the advice that everyone's been giving about weight loss and diabetes is wrong. Now, he's simply talking about a very simple process, intermittent fasting, low-carb diet. So I thought, I'm going to try this. Some of the stories about people who've been 10 years on diabetes and within a month they're off all meds through his clinic. I'm thinking, there's something's going on here. I've got to do this. So I had a look at that and thought, right, well, this is it. I'm going to try it. In the space of 2 weeks, that's all I've been doing this now, I've lost half a stone. My BMI is already down to 32. And heading off. I have so much energy, I cannot believe it. I haven't felt this energized. By the way, for those that don't know, I am 2 years away from 70, so now I'm really struggling. So we're battling with it, but I need to get rid of this. I've got a plan. I'm speaking at Inspire in June, and I do not want to be this weight when I get there. So that's where we're going with it. So I strongly recommend it. Now, anybody, if anybody wants to have a quick look at this book now, anybody here would like a quick look? Anybody at the back would like a quick look? So we'll do it here anyway. So just have a look and pass it around if you want to. Now, this isn't going to be a talk about weight loss and diabetes. Today I'm here to talk about audience engagement. I thought, what better way to do it than pick something there. And I've used 7 different ways to engage the audience already in the space of, 10 minutes. Did you spot them? Okay. What were they?
Personal story.
Sorry?
Personal story.
Personal story. Number 1. It's the number 1 way to engage an audience. A powerful personal story. Research done on this has found that if you tell a story, if somebody has a story, that what they do is they've got a storyteller on an MRI machine, measured their brain activity while they were telling a story. Then they took a bunch of students, put them on the MRI, got them to listen to the story, and they measured their brain patterns. Absolute perfect match. When you tell a story, you connect with people in such a way that they actually connect, literally, the whole brain is working in exactly the same way that you are. If you're telling a relevant story, that's a really, really powerful way. It's the most important way to engage people. What else? What did I use? Asking questions. Okay, rhetorical question, but asking questions. And that's exactly what we're doing now. I'm actually getting you engaged because I'm talking to you and getting things going. Yeah.
Taking at least one common issue to discuss.
Okay, yes, interesting. Yeah.
Diabetes.
That one I hadn't even got in there, so I'm up at 8 now. Common issue. I checked very quickly early on to see how many people were interested in these things. I knew that some of the audience had a problem with that, and so it was something that was going to be relevant. Got everybody standing up. So a bit of audience participation, and if you'll notice, most of the speakers today have been doing some or all of these different things. So for number 4, we've got people standing up. Okay, what else did I do?
Movement and distance.
So?
You move a lot and you shorten distance between yourself and the audience.
Absolutely, yeah. And one of the things that I find is quite good sometimes is coming right out into the audience. If somebody's speaking to you, by coming right out and actually engaging, all of a sudden the people at the back suddenly no longer have a barrier. So they get a little bit more engaged in there. So moving out. Anything else?
Props.
So? Props, absolutely. And quite a few speakers there have been using props, books and various other things, and engaging with them. And things like, I'm passing a book around. What has happened there? don't know whether you want to see it or not, but just by passing the book, and especially if you've got somebody at the back, tip I learned from, I can't remember who it was now, if you're selling a book, if somebody at the back says, yes, I want one, they want a free one, pass it to somebody at the front, say, just pass it back, and about 4 people get to touch it, and they're just little things like that they engage people, they want people to connect more, they feel more that they're part with you. What else have we got? I should make sure I got my list here. So? Being authentic. Okay, I can go for that one. Yep. Do you know, there are some speakers who really hate the whole audience participation thing. Absolutely despite it. I have had endless debates with Graham Davis about this, who will walk out. Those of you who know Graham will know he absolutely walks out of the room the moment we say, we're going to engage you. God, I'm gone. But Graham Davis uses what I think is the second most powerful audience engagement tool. Humour. Laughter. If I get you laughing, you're engaged, you're connected with it. This is Jeremy's stock in trade, getting people laughing. Except up north, I understand, but they don't laugh. But
so will Jeremy make us laugh today, do you think?
You have some lovely friends. You have some wonderful friends, Jeremy. Okay, fine. So I think that's all the ones I got there. Anybody else? Anybody else anymore? Sorry? Yep.
I just like it relates back to your personal story, but there was light and shade. There were good points, highs and lows, and we wanted you
Drama.
to be in the end.
See, the great thing about the thing you've got to recognise about any story, if you want a personal story, there has to be conflict. There has to be some problem you have. Otherwise, it's just a boring anecdote. Yeah, it's gone. You're not going to remember it unless there was something, some mountain to climb.
You provided the solution.
No, actually, you provided the solutions. I already knew what they were, and I was going to remind you if you forgot. But basically, you already know. And that's the other side. Well, I'll put that in. I've drawn the solutions out of the audience. So we already know this information, but sometimes we just forgot it. So all I'm doing as a speaker is just to remind you. Draw it out. So all of those audience participation techniques used in a very short space of time. And how many of you were aware that I was using lots and lots of them? And I actually set it out to do as much as I could to engage the audience. But the thing is, you've got it that way. Sometimes people think audience engagement is about doing some funny tricks. Let me give you an example of how it can all go wrong. Okay? Now, very, very quick. What I want you to do now, you're going to have a very short space of time. I would like you to turn around and shake your hand to the person behind you. Now, wait for it. I want you to get all ready. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3. Turn around. If you're going to do some audience participation, just check out, is this going to work? Is it actually going to be something that will happen, or are we going to lose people? Okay, there's all sorts of good games. I have a whole stack of different things I use, and there are times when I can use them and times when I can't. Now, I teach transgender awareness training. That's mostly what I do. I do transgender awareness programs for public sector organisations, police, fire, councils, and I like to get involved. I also do some for schools. Recently, I was talking to 250 boys at Tunbridge School in Kent. Now, you wouldn't think transgender awareness is the topic that's going to excite and inspire a group of sixth form boys at public school, and I needed them to get engaged. I wanted them to ask questions. I wanted them to become active. So, very difficult when you've just got a big audience like that. How do you get engagement? Well, this is what I do. I talk about sex and gender. And I have to go into areas where people often don't like to talk. So sex and gender. Now here's the problem. Sex and gender. Is that the same? Or are they different? If I have a form that says sex MF or gender MF, am I asking the same question? Or is it a different question? What is sex? What is gender? How are they different? What I'd like you to do, just very quickly in a group of 2 or 3, just discuss sex versus gender. What's the difference? You've got 1 minute. Just discuss the difference. most important things about things, if you get people involved in something, get them talking, sometimes you can lose control. You have to be able to bring it back. Now, that comes a little bit with experience. Oddly, I have found that simply going, shh, is sometimes the quickest and simplest way. You can shout like mad and people don't hear it because they're hearing shouting, but suddenly it's a different sound. Or use a bell. Something that you do that actually brings control back. Otherwise, as a speaker, you lose control, you're trying to drag everybody back, and then you're off foot. But anyway, what do we get? Sex and gender. What was the differences? Any thoughts? What's sex?
Alison said it very well. Sex is the genetic makeup of a person, and the gender is a male or female as in appearance.
Interesting idea. Any other thoughts? No? Anybody else got? Yeah, go.
Sex is fun, gender is who you do it with.
Sex is fun, gender is who you do it with. I'm going to come back to that one in a minute. Frank, you're getting close. Say?
What she said, sex, it's very straightforward, you can tell, but with gender, it's subjective.
Okay.
Rikki. Oh, pardon me. I'm cheating.
He says sex. So we've got a microphone here. So who's got the microphone? Tell me. Go.
Hi. Sex is your how you're physically built, and gender is the perception of your gender within society.
Excellent. And that's probably one of the most common responses I get if you look at a lot of the books. Now,
I talk on it as well, so I cheat.
Let me just tell you this. I did a master's degree in gender when I changed gender in order to basically find a new marketplace. That topic, the topic of gender, come back a second. The topic of sex and gender is a 20-credit module. I have more books on this topic than any other subject. Were you going to add?
I was just going to say, sorry, I had my hand up for the previous question. So, and what the lady said there is what we were saying. Sex is your physical self, and gender is more mental than physical. Okay. And
I think that's what a lot of people think. Sex is all about the physical body, gender's in the mind. But let me tell you this, just a really important thing you need to understand. First and foremost, sex is about bonking. If you have a conversation about sex, you're not thinking about whether somebody's male or female, you're thinking about how you're going to do it. And you can do sex with same-sex partners, opposite-sex partners, same-sex partners and opposite-sex partners. You can do it in groups. You can do it on your own. You can do it on a computer, and it's called cybersex. You can do it with animals, and it's called bestiality, and it is illegal. But the problem with that is that whenever we use the word sex in anything like homosexual, immediately people think about sexual activity. They don't think about someone's gender and everything else. And that's really the area. So this is a whole, like a 15, 20-minute section on my courses to try and get people to understand. But that first bit, can you see how it gets people thinking about the topic and trying to understand it, realizing this is actually a much harder question than they thought at first. And that means their minds are now open to say, okay, fine, this is harder than I thought. Tell me so I can get it clear. And then we start thinking sex. Yes, sex is about the physical body. Yes, gender is about the social construction. It's about the way society treats us because of our sex. And that's where all the inequality comes from. So those are, and that then gives me a whole day of training to be able to go for. So, rehearse the things right. So, one of the things I also do is I'm dealing with diversity issues. And diversity issues are about how do you treat people. So rather than me tell people how to deal with that, I get audience engagement again. So I've got about 20 scenarios, different situations. For example, you're in the office space and you suddenly hear somebody say, "Oh my God, that's so gay." Is that okay? Is it not okay? And if it's not okay, what do you do about it? Discuss in groups of 3 or 4. And then we come back. So you see, I get everybody thinking about, how will I deal with that? So they're no longer just listening to me and it's going in one ear and out. They have to process the information, use the information. When they go out, they've already got in their head, okay, I've got some strategies now for how to deal with when somebody says something inappropriate. And I want people to take stuff away in their head, not in notes. I don't give handout notes. The reason I don't give handout notes is I know where all the handout notes go. They're in a drawer marked handout notes at the bottom of my filing cabinet. They go back about 15 years, and most of them are out of date. How many of you have a drawer like that? I hope you don't do that with the PSA notes from today that you've written. So, now, One final thing I want to talk about here, a couple of things just before we get in. Room layout. You've got to think about room layout when you're thinking about how you're going to engage the audience. This is theatre style. Nicely, we don't have a middle aisle, which very often, if you go to a hotel, that's what you'll end up with. If I'm running it and I go there and they've done that, I say, no, bring everybody in, fix that, 2 aisles, sorted, because I don't like speaking to an empty space, because that's what happens if you're speaking for the theatre. But it also means I can't get everybody sort of knee to knee and face to face and doing stuff very easily, because there isn't enough space. I like cabaret style. I can get people, there's a lot more, creates a lot more space. Now, one of the things I have found is if you're doing theatre style and you don't get enough ticket sales, if you're running your own events, turn it to classroom style, put tables in, fill the room. If it's theatre style and you're expecting 50, put out 40 seats. When the last 10 arrive, they, oh, sorry, I'll get some more seats and put them out. Then everybody thinks, oh my God, this is busy. If you put out 60 seats, now the thing about this is, the reason for this is, I want everybody packed up. Because we know that if you laugh and you've got space around you, actually you only laugh very quietly. But if you laugh and you're all packed up together, you laugh raucously and you enjoy it more. So we get more engagement. So I want to make this thing much more friendly and much more... So think about the different things. I like... horseshoe layout. And a horseshoe layout, particularly if it's like a workshop seminar, you can move up and down the horseshoe, you can engage people, get people talking across the group. There's all sorts of things you can do with that you can't do with theatre. So think about that, but also it means if you're doing a speech where you don't control what's happening, find out first. When you're planning a speech, what can I do? What can't I do? I've arrived sometimes where it's a lecture theatre in a university. It's rated so steeply, I might get a crick in my neck. Have you ever been one of those? And you can't do it. There's so little you can do. You can't get people. Very hard to engage them. So I've got to think different. If I know that's happening, I'll think about something else I might be able to do that makes that work a little bit better. So, finally, why are we in this business?
To make a difference.
To make a difference? Okay. Anybody else? Why are you in this business? Enjoy it. To enjoy it? Yeah, it's got to be fun. Okay. I'm going to suggest, for me, I'm in this business for one simple reason. I want to change the world. Maybe only a small part of the world, but I want to change the world. I want to inspire behaviour that really changes the world. So I want you to do something different. There's only one way I can achieve that. It's I need to know you have got my message. You remember it, not have notes about it, you remember it. And second, I need you to take action and do something about it. And that only happens if I start to engage you really effectively. And finally, and sometimes the most important, I want you to remember my name. Because if you saw a great speech and you went somewhere and you go to the coffee break, oh, I love that speech. Oh, what's the speaker called? Oh, I can't remember what they call it anymore. It's a good speech. No, I want you to say, oh, did you see Rikki's speech? That was brilliant. Who? I knew it had to be Michael Doss.
That was your chance to say Rikki.
Yes, it was. Rikki. Okay, so there we go. So, there we go. So there's some things. Now, I think the final thing is just think about Linda this morning was talking about sensory inputs and the way in which our different senses actually grab that information. Yeah, visual, auditory, kinesthetic. Most people forget that kinesthetic, but if I don't move you and engage you, it doesn't make the rest work. So that's what we've got to try and do, is make all of that put together so you're engaging all of the senses. If you've got smells and tastes as well, chuck them in, but if that's not appropriate, then maybe don't do that. And Frank said it for me, the most important thing of all, the reason for having audience engagement is so that we all have fun together, because if it ain't fun, you're never going to remember anything. Hope you found that useful.
Well done.